Hello, welcome once again. My name is Henry Oyema, and I'm the author of the book, Basic Financial Analysis, Ratios and Performance Monitoring in Microfinance Banks. In my last book review, The Functional Microfinance Bank, we talked about all you need to set up a microfinance bank and what you need to do. But today we'll be looking at the basic financial analysis, ratios, and performance monitoring in microfinance bank. Now I'm going to be telling you the special thing about this book and what the book covers. This book was authored basically for microfinance professionals that wants to grow, that wants to understand how microfinance bank work, that wants to understand the basic assessment, basic credit analysis, basic portfolio and ratio analysis, and all it takes to manage and work in a microfinance bank setup. What this book covers? It covers introduction of basic accounting principles. Another thing we'll be looking at the financial statement and credit assessment. But another thing you need to look at in this book is the statement of financial position, which is also known as the balance sheet. We'll be looking at the income statement, which is the profit and loss. We'll be looking at the cash flow statement, we'll be looking at the ratios, we'll be looking at the portfolio report, we'll be looking at the risk management process, we'll be looking at the process flow for portfolio management, we'll be having a lot of samples, and we'll be having a lot of exercises. Now, what does this book contain? It contains 5 parts, 14 lectures, 14 review questions, and we have plenty of practical sample questions that you really need to know and understand. Before we go on, I would like you to subscribe to this channel because you have a lot to learn. We have other book reviews that will be coming up, so make sure you hit the subscription button so that once we release our book review videos and other videos that will be beneficial to you, you will receive this notification and you'll have good read. Once more, before I go on with this book, we have a lot of resources that we've created in videos. In this book, but they are abridged video lectures. It's in lectures 1 to 9. This book covers lectures 1 to 14. Those videos will actually help you understand what you need to know about microfinance too. They are just abridged versions of what we have in the book, but the book will give you a complete guide to how you understand microfinance analytics. Let's take the part 1 of this book. What do we have in the part 1? We have understanding financial analysis and credit assessment, or referred to by others as credit analysis. In lecture 2, we'll be looking at the credit analysis and review question. Very, very key. Credit analysis has a lot to do with your customer's loan. If you don't understand how to run a credit analysis on a loan, then you will not actually understand how the loan's performance will be. So in lesson 2, we'll be looking at this at a critical standpoint from the microfinance perspective. Understanding the client's financial statement. Every customer has a book of accounts. They might not know it, but you, the microfinance professionals, should know this. Whatever they sell, everybody has a book. So what this part 2 will tell you is how you can analyze their books for them, even when you don't go to their shop with an analysis sheet. All you just need is a pen and a paper, some few questions, and you get them their balance sheet, then their profit, and you get them a cash flow. And that is why that lecture 2 is very, very important to read. Lecture 3, we'll be looking at the financial statement of client. We're looking at the balance sheet in particular. Balance sheet speaks more to the static nature of a customer's business. We want to take a look at the books, at a snapshot, what it looks like, an holistic approach. Yes, it might change over time, but it just shows the snapshot at that particular time. You need to understand his asset, you need to understand his liability, and you need to understand his equity. So this is where, when you create his balance sheet, you will understand what he has in the statement. In lecture 4, we'll be looking at the income statement, which is also known as the profit and loss. You can't grant loan to somebody, a client that is not making profit. So what the profit and loss will show you is the kind of revenue he makes, at what interval does he make it, and their profit and loss is quite different from the normal conventional business or banking profit and loss. That's why they are in parts, because for the part 1 we are still focusing on the customers. Part 5, ratio analysis. Ratio analysis is key to understanding a business metrics, to understanding how it's performing, to understand how you measure their business with other business, to understand how you measure your customer's business in the sector and in the geographical limits that is operating on. Ratio analysis is very, very important. These are what a credit analyst will use to measure and make decisions if that loan will be granted or not. Lecture 6, we talk about the cash flow statement. A business might have a cash flow, money running in and out of his business, but might not be making profit. Very, very possible. I won't talk much about this, but once you are reading the cash flow, study and you understand what I'm saying. The cash flow is key for business. The business has to be liquid always. If the business is liquid, it can make good sales, it can make good purchases, and it can make good payments. So in chapter 6, you'll be studying about the cash flow, which is very, very key for your customer's business. Now let's get on to part 3. We'll now be looking at the bank's books of accounts. In the lecture 1 and lecture 2, we focus on the customer. In lecture 3, we'll be focusing on the Microfinance Bank's books of accounts. Very, very important. In lecture 7, you'll get a heads-on of what the books of the Microfinance Bank looks like. In lecture 8, we'll be looking at the income statement, which is also the profit and loss. Remember, we did make mention of profit and loss for the customer. Now we are making mention of profit and loss for the bank's book of accounts. In lecture 9, we'll be looking at the statement of cash flow. How money goes in and out of the Microfinance Bank, what they do with these monies, and how this money helps them to run their Microfinance Bank profitably. Part 4, we'll be looking at understanding the portfolio and the portfolio reports. Very, very key, and portfolio ratios. So we are looking at both portfolios and we are looking at both ratios. How they are making profit, what metrics they use to measure their profitability, what metrics they use to measure their retention, and what metrics they use to measure their whole operational framework. In lecture 11, we'll be looking at the financial ratio analysis. For the clients, we made mention of ratio analysis, but for the financial institution, which is the MLB, now we'll be looking at the financial ratio analysis. These ratios are what they use to measure their performance too. They use to measure it against their performance against their competitors. They use to make adequate decisions in management meetings. So it's very, very important to understand how ratio analysis works for Microfinance Bank. Now we're looking at the last part, which is part 5 of the basic financial analysis, ratios, and performance monitoring in Microfinance Bank. And in lecture 12, we'll be looking at the risk management in particular, the type of risk that you will encounter, the credit risk, the portfolio risk, majorly divided into 2, which is financial and operational risk, which also have their subtopics there. So you need to adequately read to understand. Yes, you might not get this in the videos that we publish out, but you definitely get it in the book, because these are the book speaks loud and much volume to what you watch in the videos. Chapter 14, we'll be looking at performance monitoring. How well are you measuring your Microfinance Bank? How well are your staff performing? Month and month end. What is your portfolio bringing in? Are they going bad? Are they going well? Is the portfolio at risk increasing? These are where you learn what PAR is and how PAR can adequately work against you and work for you in your Microfinance Bank as against regulatory guidelines, which is expected to always perform functional and optimally. The last but not the least in this book, we'll be looking at the process flow. How should process work in your Microfinance Bank? Who should be doing what at what time? When does a staff need to stop disbursing loan if the portfolio starts going bad? Who is being appointed in a particular position? These are all what you will get in this book. I leave you to drop a comment, and as of this stage, I'll be telling you that take your time to watch the videos posted in the description link. They are free. And if your organization needs assessment for the staff, yes, we can arrange that and give assessment, because you don't have assessment in those videos. Take your time to understand, and I encourage you to get a copy and other books that have been published by me. I've published the Microfinance Bank. I have a book review of that. This is the basic financial analysis, ratio, and portfolio monitoring. We'll also be having a review for microfinancing, financial inclusion, and digitization. We also have one coming up, the Nigerian Business Lending Manual. These are books that you will need to read if you are a microfinance professional. Thank you. I encourage you, subscribe, take time to read till you hear from me.